Hello, my name is Nicole Norman, and I'm going to be doing a little review of my learning teaching interaction, my second one. And I wanted to start by talking about different teaching methods. First teaching method is group discussions. Now, group discussions invite active involvement in the learning process, and I have several different parts in my workshop that I've scheduled for group discussions. This is where participants will have time to clarify their thinking through making comments and through listening to the comments of others. It's very important that we structure the discussion by making the purpose of goals of the discussion clear. If we don't do this, then the discussion may go off in a different direction than we would like. It's also very important that as the educator, I'm able to link common similarities in the comments between participants because linking them helps them promote interaction between the participants. Another method is personal narratives. I've included several different stories that are personal in my workshop because sharing personal experiences helps you have an emotional connection and can really reach the audience members in a different, more personal way. And I feel like it's a good, effective way of teaching. I remember teaching a Relief Society a couple years ago about eternal families, and in that lesson, I explained that I had a strong testimony that we would live with our families forever after this life, and that I had lost 8 family members in the past 9 years, and that clinging to that thought of life after death and eternal families really helped me through all of the losses. And a woman who was visiting came up and asked me a few questions and gave me a hug and really thanked me for the lesson and explained she had lost her infant child a couple of years before and had a lot of questions about life after death. So I was able to have her over for dinner. We had the missionaries over and really answer quite a few questions for her about eternal life. And she was later baptized, and her husband as well. And she has since told me how grateful she was that I shared that story because it really helped her to feel connected to me and that she wanted to be happy. And that was just really hit me as a really strong example that I need to always be able to be personable and share stories and really try to make a connection because I know it benefits me as a student when I hear that someone shares their personal stories as well. It helps me to connect. Another teaching method is role playing. I know I have scheduled time for volunteers to role play at the end of my workshop. And when you're doing the role playing, this gives the participant a chance to test out what they've been discussing and see how well they understand what's been taught. We also need to be careful when we select our actors. I plan on using volunteers so no one feels uncomfortable or threatened by playing the role. Another teaching method is video clips. I'm a very visual person, so video clips always help me to better understand what's being taught. It's also important as educators that we introduce the clip well so that participants understand what the clip is about and how it applies to what's being taught. I also love humor and find it's helpful sometimes to share funny clips that teach the topic from a different perspective. Another method is playing a game or activity. That some games or activities can be used for icebreakers to get students interested in a topic, or an activity could be used to facilitate learning. I know in my workshop I'm doing an intro game for an icebreaker, and I'm also going to do a second game which will facilitate the principle of active listening, which is a part of my communication, which is my workshop title. Also, it's important to teach by the Spirit. Follow the Lord's example of teaching. In D&C 42:14 it reads, "And the Spirit shall be given unto you by the prayer of faith, and if ye receive not the Spirit, ye shall not teach." I feel it's very important as educators that we teach the material that we have researched, but not be afraid to follow the Spirit. Also, to ask good questions. I made sure to plan some questions that would lead discussions, but not sway the participants' views. I feel it's really important to put the question out there, let the participants lend their views, and then add input to keep the discussion on the right path. Also, very important is we need to give the audience members time to think. After asking a question, it's important just to sit back and be patient. Sometimes participants need a few minutes to orchestrate their thoughts, so we just need to relax and not rush them. Now, if the silence is going on longer than it should, maybe we haven't asked the question more, clearly. So in that case, we can just rephrase the question so it's better understood. We also should listen to the participants' answers. Sometimes as teachers, we are in a big hurry and we're worried about what we're going to say next. So we ask a question and then we don't really stop and listen to the participants give their answer. So it's very important that we listen and acknowledge their answers so they feel heard. Also, there are many differences among our audience members. Family structure, family dynamics, they're all different. So it's vital that we remember to be conscious of each student's family dynamics and background. By understanding that we're all from different types of families, we can be more empathetic and sensitive when we're teaching. So we really need to take the time to get to know our audience. I have participants in the workshop fill out a survey with some questions about themselves a week before the workshop will begin. And I prepared this in a way so I can plan questions that will benefit the participants better during the workshop. This will also help me know their needs and their desires of the workshop as well. I remember bringing a non-member friend to an enrichment night one night, and one of the teachers in her lesson, she said, quote, "My friend's dad died when she was 8 years old and has suffered depression and has been a mess ever since." The instructor went on to say, "I mean, who wouldn't be a mess? No one can be normal if they've lost their parent at such a young age." Now, of course, the speaker did not know that the young woman I had brought with me that night had lost her dad at 12 years old. If the speaker had taken a little time to ask a question in the beginning of her lesson about anyone maybe losing a parent at a young age, or if she'd rephrased her comment and said it in a more positive way, perhaps it would not have offended this girl. We also need to remember to be flexible. It is crucial to be flexible when responding to comments and questions. No two questions will be asked exactly the same, and no two answers should be answered exactly the same. We really need to take an individualized approach. That's a more effective way to teach. I know originally I was going to have 35 to 40 participants in each of the workshops that I was going to be teaching. But after reviewing all of this material from the past couple weeks, I really have decided to change my workshop numbers, and I would like to teach a more individualized style of teaching. So I'll be reducing the size of the workshop from 16 to 20 participants. I feel like that will create a better environment and a more personalized, individualized lesson and workshop. Thank you.